I am not late. Excuse me. I literally just hit live right now. You shut up, you, sir, Mr. Person, individual who is calling me late. How dare you say such a thing? Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I sincerely hope that everything is working, considering that my last stream was an impromptu collab, which involved the wonderful Kuririnji. I had to resize my avatar. In fact, I think it's still a tiny bit too large. Yeah, that works. I do apologize if there is sloshing sounds. I'm just mixing up the honey in my bottle of water at the moment, which will make it a lime and honey bottle of water, which will be very, very nice. There we go. Excellent. But good evening, everyone. Good evening, Lumi Angler. Good evening, Mind-Eating Hat. I do not recall seeing you around here before. Hello, also Bud Freecell. Freecell. Yes, I believe that's what your name is. And of course, YouTube Live Control Panel is reporting massively different numbers for everything. Hello, Arclight. It's nice to see you. I find it really annoying whenever Stream, yes, definitely Stream does this. I do apologize for not streaming last week, but there was a bunch of reasons why. I've kind of gotten into one of those situations where I don't really want to do VTuber-related content at the moment because there's too much going on, if that makes sense. There's too much that I get told about. There's too much that I hear talk over in my ear, and I just don't like the... It feels somehow just kind of sullying to go on a stream and talk about this thing is happening, that thing is happening, when I'm in a position where I know more than I can really say openly, and it's really kind of awkward for me. I found it a real conflict of interest, and it kind of shows to me that people like False ID and so on have a very different attitude towards this kind of creation stuff than I do. I should also get rid of my tip goal at some point, because it's currently physically impossible for people to use my stream elements because... So PayPal, my business PayPal, my normal PayPal still works perfectly fine, but my business PayPal that I use for this channel randomly decided to ask me to provide proof of my identity, or it would not allow me to send or receive money. And so I gave it proof of my identity, and PayPal said, "Thank you so much. We will get back to you in 4 to 6 business days." That was 4 weeks ago. Ever since then, I have not been able to use my PayPal business account, and furthermore, I have no further options to submit, review, or edit my details at all. And here's the thing. My account is limited. Do you know what happens when I go to my account settings and look at the specific page which they provide you to see how your account is limited? Do you know what happens when I click on that little View Account Limits button? Do you know? PayPal crashes. It just errors out. It just shows up a 404 error. It's broken. It doesn't work. And there's... I looked on PayPal's support page, and I can't find the option to actually speak to a person, because I can't even, like, open up a bot. I know I would only get bots, but I don't even see that option, because all of the it's all just like, oh, fill this out and tell us what the problem is. But none of the template options cover any of the issues that I'm having. There is no template question for what to do if PayPal is taking weeks and weeks to verify your information and will not let you edit or modify your information in any way. Arclight, you have been debanked for wrongthink, sorry. It's just so bloody stupid. I wouldn't mind if they gave me an actual reason or anything like that, but no, they have given me literally nothing. I have no idea what PayPal's problem is. I have no idea how to fix it. It is most irritating to me. Oh, lovely water. So yes, that is how things stand. So I cannot currently accept tips via Stream Elements. However, if any of you want to donate via Buy Me a Coffee, that is completely and totally fine. That works for me perfectly well, still at the moment. And people have been quite decently generous over the past 2 months or so. So I am sitting fairly pretty at the moment. Thank you very much for your generosity, but please remember that this service runs entirely on donations, and TVA is not a project that is enormously cheap to run. Especially considering that I am currently, once again, I am trying to upgrade our hosting system, but guess what? I'm not getting responses on the support tickets that I open with my host. Even after they already confirmed to me that it would be possible to upgrade, and that all I needed to do was open one of those tickets in order to formally request an upgrade to our hosting service. So, God. I don't know, guys. Sometimes the bureaucracy of this world is baffling to me, just absolutely insane on so many levels, and I do not understand why I am forced to endure it in the way that I am. It is most distressing. But I will not regale you for too long with that kind of nonsense, despite the fact that it is very grating on my soul. Instead, I will just reorganize because today was a very busy day as well, so it has been a little bit harder for me to research stuff for this than it normally would be. Last week was fairly complicated for me as well, but at the moment, before I came here, I had to go into town with my dear and beloved mother for an hour, and something that was supposed to take 10 minutes ended up taking over an hour as well, which was very irritating. So yes, it has been rather a hectic and difficult day, but I am able now to talk to you about this wonderful topic. This very enlightening, this heartening, this charming topic, which is what to do if the government decides to murder your pet squirrel, among other similar things. Actually, my avatar is definitely too large on that page, so let me just shrink it down a tiny bit. There we go, and just wiggle myself about a little bit. There we go. Excellent. Because, yes, I find it very interesting. I do have to wonder how much this would be publicized if it had not happened, 2 days before election night? And, a large part of me does question the validity, because this has definitely become a very politicized topic right away, and, as much as some people would accuse me of being a little bit too political on stream, I really could not give less of a rat's ass about the 2024 US election. I don't particularly care who wins. My vote is very firmly for the giant meteor, I'm afraid. I hope that nobody in my audience was hoping that I would be a dedicated fan of the wonderful Kamala Harris, or the garbage human being, or whatever his name currently is in the media, that is Orange Cheeto Man Bad, or whatever other definitely not a slur or derogatory term is being used for him. But I really don't care. I really don't care. Icarus Windrun 223 likely still would have been publicized. I remember a picture of the squirrel wearing the MAGA hat going around, just not as widely. Hal Jeb, the election is a special night of ousted entertainment that only rolls around once every 4 years, regardless of winner. I do sort of agree, but the trouble is, I wish to restate that there is a very good reason why I live in a country where I have basically never been forced to acknowledge the government in any capacity, and would prefer to stay that way. It has gotten a bit worse, but hopefully I will be able to move before the heavy hand of the EU bureaucracy smothers me more than it already does, because I do despise the EU with all of my heart and soul. Not even on a political sense, just for the fact they keep interfering with my life. Murphy Graves, I'm just for less government. I am most certainly for less government. The only... That's the problem. Name one government department that has ever voluntarily given itself less authority. That's one of the major issues of the whole thing. Name one grassroots organization that has ever declared its mission a complete success and will now disband. And name one government department that has ever come to the conclusion that it needs less authority over something. And that basically sums up my opinion on governments and organizations and various other similar things. Zuli, so better or worse than PETA killing pets as well? I think it beat. Oh goodness, that's a hilarious joke, isn't it? PETA is kind of a dead horse. PETA is a bit of a dead horse at the moment, because what more is there to say about PETA than is already known? I mean, they're a terrible, garbage, useless organization that kills far more pets than they ever save. It's like PETA's founder was very, very open about the fact that they believe that the domestication of animals on any level should never have happened, and their organizational mission is to make sure that humans and animals live entirely separate lives where there is minimal interaction between the two, which includes all forms of domesticated animals. And if PETA had their way, your dog, your cat, your chickens, your goats, your cattle, all of those just simply wouldn't exist. And one of the best ways to deal with that is to just get rid of them. Just kill them all. Like, what are you going to do? Like, all the cattle in the world, just kill them all. All the dogs, all the domesticated dogs in the world, just kill them all. All the domesticated cats, kill them too. They're not going to go away unless you kill them. Like, that's the problem. And PETA, I mean, in fairness to PETA, at least they're fairly honest about it. They are fairly blunt about that messaging overall, in my experience. I mean, the low-level operatives are very annoying and stupid. Laffy Graves, yeah, it was Kennedy until they booted him off the ballots for that reason. Is that, like, RFK Jr.? Mike Lennis Rex, I'm 50 minutes late, busy looking for my badge, right as I was about to clock out for lunch fed post. Yeah, that kind of thing is very irritating, I know. Icarus Windrun, not much so far. They are up there with Just Stop Oil. Just Stop Oil is a psyop. It's just a psyop. It's literally, unironically, a psyop. Armchair expert. PETA is to pets what MAID is to Canadians. You are extremely correct. Was that, this is a bit of a tangent already, but let me just have a quick look at this, because wasn't there some conversation about MAID recently? Suicide booth fails. Person has to be strangled. Because I think this was something that happened fairly recently. Okay, so so this is a Christian action and Christian action research and education. That's a bit more. That's ibc.co.uk. I have no idea. Leading Britain's conversation. I have no idea what the alignment of this thing is. So yeah, I'm not putting it up on screen because I'm not really going to go into this, but who knows? Maybe I'll do a scripted video on this sometime or other. But yeah, apparently there was a thing where there's this whole suicide pod, which is the most dystopian fucking nightmare shit I have ever seen in my entire life. Oh my god. I will put this on screen just so we can read this, a tiny bit of this insanity together, because good god, this is actually... Oh... Yeah, I'm not sure if you can tell by the resolution. Yeah, Beard. Good evening, Proctor. No wonder you cover this story. You do like them fluffy tales. I think that was the Netherlands. Sounds very Canadian/Netherlands. Yeah, where was it? The president of Sarcos operated the last resort, Dr. They even call it the last resort. My god, are you insane? What the hell? Remains in custody after being arrested along with several other people nearby. Willette was the only person present when the woman died. The inventor of the Sarco, Philip something or other, followed the process by video call but was unable to catch up. That's so bloody typical. A 64-year-old American mother of two who has not been named died inside the capsule in the middle of a forest near a cabin in Merischhausen, Switzerland on September the 23rd. The pod, which prior to this had never been used, allows a person inside the device to push a button that injects nitrogen gas into the sealed chamber. The person inside is then supposed to fall asleep before dying by suffocation. Willett remains in police custody nearly 5 weeks after the incident. He was the only person present when the woman died, describing her death as peaceful, fast, and dignified. Okay, that is one of the most pants-shittingly terrifying things that I have read in a very long time. Yeah, there should never, ever be a case where somebody is committing assisted suicide where there is only one person present. That strikes me as the best way to enable a serial killer. The Swiss chief prosecutor of the case, Peter Stitcher, stitch him up real good, thinks the death might have gone quite differently, raising suspicions that the woman may have been strangled in a case of intentional homicide. The newspaper reports that the pod is opened and closed several times before the woman presses the button which triggers the procedure to test its closure. A forensic doctor present at the scene told the court that the woman had, among other things, severe injuries to her neck. According to the news outlet, the company president who was standing beside the woman throughout the event was heard to tell the pod's designer over video call, "She's still alive, Philip." The comments came 6.5 minutes after the user pressed the button to end her own life. The president is said to have been confused by the sound of an alarm, thought to be a heart rate monitor. The court heard how he continued to lean over the sarcopod to peer inside before the alarm ceases. The woman decided to take her life using the sarco because of a long-standing disease. She had been diagnosed with skull base osteomyelitis, an infection of the bone marrow. She said she had wished to die for at least 2 years after suffering from a very serious illness that involved severe pain. Due to an immune disorder, the woman was unable to receive effective treatment for her osteomyelitis. After being notified of her death by the 2 lawyers involved in the project and present at the scene, the police swept the forest and arrested everyone near the sarco, including a photographer for Volkskrant. In September, the chief prosecutor told Blick, "We warned them in writing. We said that if they came to Schaffhausen and used sarco, they would face criminal consequences. Everyone arrested has since been released except for Willett. Volkskrant has questioned why Stitcher has not publicly accused Willett of intentional homicide, but has been using the suspicion to get judges to extend Willett's custody. A criminal investigation into the pod is underway, and all of the 371 active applications have been suspended for use." I'm absolutely speechless, guys. This is absolutely ghoulish to me. Good grief. Good grief. That is absolutely disturbing. Let me just put on live chat for a second because I realize it's been off for a while, and there's probably going to be quite a few comments that are caught by the filter tonight. Armchair expert. This makes me wonder how many technologies used to commit war crimes will inevitably be redeveloped as a service by first world tech bros. I mean, let's not forget the gas chambers were originally invented for fumigation purposes. Okay, that was in fact, that's one of the major arguments that ridiculous idiots who deny the Holocaust say, oh, the gas chambers, they were actually just delousing chambers because, that like Zyklon B or whatever, that was, it's actually a delousing agent. You don't understand those Jews, they just had lice infestations and they were just trying to get rid of, the helpful, loving Nazis were just trying to get rid of the lice, and that's why there was no genocide. And then you punch those people in the face. Geekdramon 6, the managerial state and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. So this is most certainly true. Let me just have a drink of water for a second. Let me just scroll back up through the chat for a second and look through comments on this. Yes, Beard, it was in Switzerland the pod failed and they had to strangle the woman. Icarus Windrun, what in the world am I reading? This is like Callie wanting to turn corpses into fertilizer. You know, in all honesty, I have no real objection to the idea of corpses being turned into fertilizer. See, my mother is very firm on the fact that she would, if she wants to be cremated. However, she only wants to be cremated because it's illegal for her to compost her own body. My mother is quite a hardcore person, and yeah, she has it where she wants to be cremated because the alternative that she wanted was something called sky burial, where is quite literally where they take your body, they leave it on a mountainside, and they allow it to be picked clean and dismantled by predators. Icarus Windrun 223, Proctor all will say is prions are a thing and cremation won't break those down. I mean, prions would have no impact as fertilizer, would they? Prions, as far as I'm aware... sorry, greetings to Carter, by the way. Prions are only a problem when the material is used as feedstock for animals. As far as I'm aware, prion-infected meat can still be broken down naturally and composted. But, I mean, if I'm wrong, then by all means remind me that. Muffy Graves, we can get buried with tree seeds in us and be tree food here. That's actually quite cute. I like that idea. I quite like that idea. You see, I have a thing... I am a Christian and I believe in resurrection, and my attitude is that I would like my body to be as intact as possible because when I die, I want to be buried and I want there to be a plaque on the inside of my coffin that just reads, "Congratulations, you made it." And I would quite like to be brought back in my own body like that. So the first thing I see when I open my eyes is that plaque. Digimon 6 again. As Voltaire once said, the bureaucracy is expanding to meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy. They need to find new things to manage and regulate to maintain and express their class interests. I completely agree with you. I need to read more Voltaire. I like Voltaire. I have only read a little bit of Voltaire, but Voltaire really strikes me as my kind of guy. I should read more Voltaire. I mean, maybe that's a completely inaccurate assessment, but yeah, I like Voltaire. I like the cut of his jib. Icarus Windrun. Let me read back up again. Canada is broken, and then Icarus Windrun said, "Yeah, kind of figured that when in Quebec's international airport." And found multiple used needle bins. I hate Canada quite passionately. I hate all these places. I really do. I just want to be a Luddite, honestly. I want to live in the wilderness, and I want to have no contact with the rest of civilized society as much as possible. I say that while I'm streaming on the internet to people, so that's kind of absurd. I'm sorry, can you guys hear this squeaky noise in the background? Give me 1 second. Darling. Come on, sweetheart. What are you doing? You okay? Hey, girl. I have a very small bird in a box by my chair at the moment, and that is the sound that you can hear. Whoa there, Una Proctor. No need to go all Uncle Ted on us. Now, there is a very, very tiny, very delicate, very old bird in my hand right now, right next to the microphone. Aren't you such a beautiful little girl, aren't you? You're so sweet. You're so lovely. I love you. She's about 6 years old now. She's very old and very thin and very light and very delicate. Aren't you? You're very light and very delicate, but very, very cute, aren't you? You are completely adorable, but she occasionally needs, she has a husband who is in the box still at the moment, who is a lot less tame than she is. Oh, no, it's okay, it's okay. I'll put you away in a second. It's alright, it's okay. It's okay, it's okay. It's alright, my little sweetheart. It's alright, my little sweetheart. Aren't you? Yes. Back in you go. One, there you go. Spot her back in. Zuli, Proctor, you need to reconquer Canada for the king and shame them back into Edicati? Canada was still a British colony after all. Burb stream when? Maybe when I steal a decent phone and get a camera set up so you can actually observe it. I did have a camera set up in one of some of my earlier streams when I had a bird in a box beside my seat, but unfortunately that bird has since passed away. And I somehow doubt this poor little sweetheart will last too much longer because she is very thin, like absolutely waif thin. I'd say that her husband, who is about the same age but a lot healthier, is like 4 or 5 times as heavy as she is. He's a normal, healthy weight. He's probably got at least another year or 2 in him, whereas she is very, very small and very delicate. But she still devours food and everything, so I'm not too worried about her. She's certainly not in any pain or discomfort. Most of my birds are now quite old because, of course, with the fact that the status of our residency within this house is still up in the air to this very day, I have purposefully been not replacing my flock, so they have slowly gotten older and started passing away, which is unfortunate. I would definitely have more birds if my situation was more stable, but that is not the case. Icarus Windrun. Unfortunately, the US has its own issues, such as NYC having people handing weed out to... What? You're joking. You're joking, you're Icarus Windrun. That is... When you say kids, like, how old? Muffy Graves, that's been happening here for years now. We now hand out fentanyl to Please tell me you're joking. Please tell me you're pulling my leg. Please tell me you're just doing that thing where you make up stuff that sounds extreme so that, you know, it sounds better. It's a competition. I am unfortunately not in Proctor like... I really don't like the world at the moment, guys. It's seriously getting to the point where, like, when Muslims call for Sharia law and so on, I find it very hard in good conscience to say that that would be a worse alternative to the kind of shit that I hear about going on in the Western world every day. I mean, I understand that it would be very bad. At the same time, I cannot look a Muslim extremist in the face any longer and say, I'm sorry, but our way is better. And that's been a major thing with me for a while. I don't like it when people in the West criticize other cultures. And I look at what the West is currently doing and I say, look, I would love to be able to sit in my ivory tower and say, oh, you savages have no idea how to run civilization. But no, I can't. I'm just like, yeah, maybe we could do with a bit of violent purging for the stuff that we've done. Icarus Windrun. Honestly, Hassan has said some pretty prophetic things. When you say not Twitch Hassan, what Hassan do you mean? There we go. Which Hassan do you mean if you don't mean the Hassan that is currently on Twitch? Anyway, we have already managed to be massively sidetracked, and I will just catch up with all the messages that people immediately start sending me. I swear, it is like every single time I set myself to streaming, to streamer mode, my inbox instantaneously starts filling up with Discord messages. Anyway, let me get back on topic here. So that was a very fun diversion. That's another actually good thing. I have been messing around with DaVinci Resolve for quite some time, and I've been enjoying myself. I really enjoy using DaVinci Resolve now, and it is remarkably simple. And so I can see myself doing maybe a little bit of scripted content at some point, because previously I was very worried about video editing and all that kind of nonsense. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I don't like doing anything that I feel, in a scripted term, that is less than perfect. Live content allows me to let myself go a little bit. But with how easy DaVinci Resolve has been to learn, I could see myself actually doing some scripted content at some point because, yeah, it's just quite fun. It's quite pleasant. Hassan Salami? What? You people have very much kind of lost me, I'm afraid. But yes, anyway, I thought that before we go on, we could look through a couple of these rather entertaining things. Not yet. But I thought that this was something that Reinigen sent, which I think highlights things very well. Oh yes, there's also some pretty good ones in. Also, some pretty good ones in the comments too. I like this one as well. But yes, this one with the Democrat sign. My God, they killed Peanut. Well, he was being housed illegally. I have never heard of Hassan Salami, I am afraid. But yeah, I think this sums up something very, very good. Did anyone make some Ayun? Oh yeah, that's a really good point. Ayun the Risu would be a spectacular person for this kind of thing, wouldn't she? Yes, we'll be going into Freya the Walrus as well, because the much belated thrust of this stream is that, yeah, I have lived on a farm my entire life. I have also cared for quite a large selection of wildlife that has ended up damaged, harmed, or otherwise orphaned in some way. And I have also, of course, cared for a great deal of domestic fowl of various different noisy types. Also, quite a few dogs, cats, etc. We are a very wildlife-friendly house. So I feel as if I have a certain perspective on this kind of thing that a lot of people don't, because something that has very much bothered me all my life has been the general ignorance that people have around wildlife. And nothing bothers me more than seeing the kind of vitriolic arguments that people get into over the topic of wildlife ownership, of wildlife rehabilitation, etc., when it's quite obvious that neither side of that argument has any real firm foundation or grasp on what the actual issues are that are at play. Icarus Windrun, yeah, that's him, said the West would fall to it being so liberty/freedom obsessed. I mean, I think there is such a thing as positive freedom, and then there is negative freedom. I look at kind of... You can go all the way back to the Garden of Eden for that, where regardless of whether you think that it's a literal thing or just, a story, I think that's a tremendous example of positive freedom versus negative freedom. In the Garden of Eden, God offered Adam and Eve positive freedom, in that they were allowed to do pretty much anything within the Garden of Eden except this one very specific thing. And then Satan came along and offered them negative freedom, which was the freedom from everything. They could do whatever they wanted, but unfortunately they didn't have freedom from the consequences of choosing to disobey the law that they had been given. And, well, if you are a believer, that's how the whole human race and the nonsense we are in now started, and to me it's a pretty compelling argument. Beard, it's like the people who make gun laws... That just disappeared off my screen. It's like the people who make gun laws have not even held a gun in their hands. I do have a massive problem with people who are like that. I do not think that anybody should ever make a law on a topic that they do not themselves have personal first-hand experience in. I think that is a very hardcore thing. Icarus Windrun, as a Florida man, people arguing over wildlife versus domesticated never made sense to me. Could you explain that a little bit more, Icarus Windrun? Because, yeah, I live in Ireland. There are no large predators in Ireland. There is no animal in Ireland that poses a significant danger to human life that is not... that is not domesticated. Like, you might get killed by a bull, but yeah, that's a domesticated animal. That's not a wild animal. There is nothing dangerous in terms of wildlife in Ireland. Although they have been considering reintroducing wolves to Ireland, something that I am 100% in favor of. I think they should bring back wolves to Ireland. Magdalenus Rex, the progressive move... Sorry, I can't look at this for a second. I'm sorry that my chat is moving too fast for me. Give me a second so I can actually bring up the proper thing and look at this the right way. There we go. Magdalenus Rex, the progressive movement grew from statist Republicans in the US. They crushed the decentralized mutual aid societies and free enterprise, and that opened the door for social progressivism. I do agree with you there. I think that's a very cogent point, and I would always go back to Thomas Sowell's Vision of the Anointed. And I think you, to be perfectly honest, I don't think you have a valid opinion on the state bureaucracy until you have read and internalized the Vision of the Anointed. It is a profoundly fantastic book which outlines the mindset of the kind of people that Magdalena's Rex just described in extremely effective terms. Icarus Windrun, at least where I am, alligators are scared of humans and can be raised. Bears rarely appear and are like raccoons, and raccoons can be pets. I do find it very funny. If you go on Twitter, you can also find it on, I think they're mostly Twitter reposts of TikTok videos. But all of the videos from Russia of people having pet bears or tame bears that like kind of live in the family along with them. And I find that really, really funny. And I also watched a video, a documentary about the Bear Man, who was that guy who went out into the wilderness and he basically became a bear. Well, he didn't become a bear, but he lived with bears and he spent pretty much his whole time with them. And a lot of people thought he went very native. He became terrified of human interaction. He was a bit of a pest and everything. Icarus Windrun, there are also coy wolves, which are dog-coyote hybrids, and they don't normally attack people. Azahara-chan, the one that got murdered by a grizzly. Yes, he did get murdered by a grizzly, and I think he is a very good example of somebody who should not have been involved in wildlife rehab in any capacity. In fact, give me just 1 second. Give me just 1 second, because I think there might be an article or two on that. Grizzly man. Timothy Treadwell. This is Wikipedia. Backpaper magazine. That's interesting. Please give me 1 second, please. Our Gen Z editor had a secret. She had never seen Grizzly Man. We recruited bear biologist and podcast host Wesley Larson. Yeah, I will go over this. I didn't plan to. However, this is actually a very relevant point when it comes to interacting with and caring for wildlife in any capacity. Because this particular one is rather fascinating. Let me just see how long this is first. It's quite long. It's quite long. So I won't go through all of it probably, but we'll have a quick look at this. I do apologize for the light mode as well. Every time someone does something foolish around a bear, the internet has 2 words for them: grizzly man. It's hard to think of a backpacker who isn't familiar with Werner Herzog's critically acclaimed documentary or its idiosyncratic subject, Timothy Treadwell. However, there's one backpacker who has remained more or less oblivious to Grizzly Man's story, me. I credit that to being 6 years old at the time of its premiere and likely more interested in the Berenstain Bears than documentaries about the cruelty of nature. I decided that if I was going to watch it, I had to do it right. I enlisted the help of Wesley Larson, a wildlife biologist and host of Tooth and Claw, a podcast that examines human-wildlife conflict and the lessons we can learn from it. They treat us like they treat other bears in places like this. That's 15 seconds long. Give me a second. Let's work without spamming me with ads, hopefully. That's just an example, okay. Yeah, this is interesting. Wes, there are multiple bears in the shot. You've got a female with cubs. You've got what looks like a couple of males. In coastal Alaska or coastal British Columbia, where you have these really great food resources, you see a lot of bears in the same places. Because they're so used to being around other bears, they're not nearly as aggressive or nearly as territorial as bears in Yellowstone or Glacier might be. Because there's so much food, and that food has allowed them to be at such high densities, they treat us like they treat other bears in places like this. They are really tolerant of humans because they are also tolerant of other bears. That's why Timothy was able to get so close. That's why when you see people in Katmai or Brooks Falls, they have bears walking right next to them. If you have the exact same bear in Yellowstone or Glacier, it's the same animal, but it's going to act much more aggressively because it has to defend its resources and its territory and everything from other animals. These guys don't really have to do that. They are much more docile and tolerant of human presence. And that is a key factor that a vast number of people simply do not understand. And this is one of the things that irritates me so much about the way that people view wildlife rehabilitation and wildlife interaction. They refuse to acknowledge that animals are instinct-driven creatures, and the strongest instinct that an animal has is for food. An animal will always seek to feed itself. And Danny D said, wasn't that the guy who said he had a spiritual connection with the bears and didn't need a weapon or bear spray? Yes, exactly. One of the problems that people have is that they don't understand that an animal, when it is hungry, is going to view them as either... A herbivore is going to view you as a potential rival. A predator is going to view you as a potential food source. And the thing about wild animals is that wild animals are almost always one meal away from starvation. Especially predators. Predators live very lean and they live very mean. And one of the reasons why this guy, I think his name was Timothy, was able to get so close to these bears was because they had full stomachs. They had full stomachs, and therefore they did not want to attack him. It was that simple. And another thing that people don't grasp about predators is that predators have to be extremely acutely aware of their own health. Because a predator that is injured is a dead predator. Almost any kind of... this is especially the case for predators that are solitary. A grizzly bear, for example, is a solitary animal. A snake is a solitary animal. And that's another thing that people don't understand, is that a lot of snakes that are kept in captivity, people feed them live prey, which is necessary in some cases. A lot of snakes will not eat dead prey, even if it is very fresh dead prey, so there are cases where you cannot avoid feeding snakes live prey. But what people forget is that things like rats and mice and other rodents, they have teeth and they have claws. And a rat that is cornered is going to fight back. Rats are dangerous creatures. A rat can give you a vicious bite. A rat can claw at you. Rats can genuinely fight cats and win. A large rat can legitimately tear a cat apart if it wants to. Like 2 or 3 rats decide to stand up together in a pack against something like a Jack Russell or so on, that Jack Russell is going to run away. Because that Jack Russell knows that it's not going to be able to stand up to 2 or 3 large black rats that have decided their backs are against a wall and they are going to fight for their lives. So people feed live animals to snakes and then are confused when their snake dies because it was bitten and got a staph infection or some other infection from these animals that fought back against it. I didn't know rats can do that. Rats are hardcore animals. They are very hardcore animals. A rat can chew through concrete. There's some really amazing things that rats can do. Exactly, rat teeth are razor sharp and they never stop growing. In fact, that's another thing that people who have pet rats don't respect. Is that rats' teeth grow eternally. They're like shark teeth, is that they are constantly growing. And an awful lot of pet rats, unfortunately, die because they get ingrown teeth. Or their teeth get so large that they can't open their jaw and they starve to death. Which is another thing that people don't understand about wild animals. And it's something that I see with birds all the time. The fact that animals are evolved or have adapted to not show weakness under any circumstances. Because again, the weak animal in a herd is the one that gets picked off. The weak predator is the one that gets rejected by the rest of the pack or becomes predated on by other members of its species. Rin friend, yeah, they never stop growing, so they have to chew constantly to keep them cut. Exactly. Yep, they like a rat's teeth wear down constantly, so they keep growing. Icarus Windrun, Zerstora, yep, hence why NYC has a rat problem, rats break into apartments, and why rats in cities become cat-sized. Yep, rats are really, really hardcore. In fact, let me look something up. Unfortunately, I can't look up this subject because... Yeah, because Google search results are completely overwhelmed by something. But yeah, let me just get largest rats. Largest rat. Yeah, that's a pretty good example. This is let me just open this up for a second. Yeah, this is from a news article, so it's not just a hoax or a scam as far as I'm aware. But yeah, this is how big a rat can get, by the way. This is not a special rat. This is a normal species of rat, by the way. Yes, it's very oogie. It's a very oogie rat. A very oogie rat. Danny D, that's something a lot of bear sanctuaries don't really show in their videos. The bear is always well fed before people act with them. Yes. Don't forget boars either. He's a big rat. He's the big rat that makes all the rules. Smallest European rat. WTF, that's half of my brother. There is some perspective going on in that photo. Oh, probably. There's probably at least some of it, but... Zerstora, at first it does not look like a rat. It's pronounced okay. Okay? Is this the rat king they were talking about in the select? Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Also have rats down here, but they mostly try and go into our roofs. I think you meant roofs. Is that how you say roofs? Oh, I suppose they do. That's like beavers. We don't have rats in Alberta. You don't have rats in Alberta? Good grief. I thought rats were literally everywhere in the entire universe. Looks like a nutria rat. They used to keep them for fur. Yeah, it is very interesting, all this kind of stuff, because people forget just how varied and exotic wildlife actually is. Give me just one second. Another sip of water. Ah, thank you. What was I talking about? Yeah, I was talking about food, wasn't I? Yeah. Animals in captivity have vastly better diets than anything that they get out in the world. And that's another thing that a lot of animals that are kept in captivity can actually have too much food. That's why they die, because they get fatty liver. I think I talked about this quite extensively on a previous stream, so I won't go into it in much detail, but yeah. Fatty liver is a very common problem with household pets because they get far too rich food and they die from it, which is very unpleasant. What else was it? Let me go back to that article with the grizzly stuff. 1 nanosecond, please. Oh my god, why have I got 7 messages on Discord? Good grief. Yes, it's because the bears are okay with people being around. That's in reference to this video. There are even some anecdotal observations of female grizzlies that will leave their cubs with people observing them and go fishing. They use people almost as babysitters for their cubs because they have become so tolerant of other bears and people. He's way too close, though. It's definitely not a situation you ever want to find yourself in unless you're with a guide. Yeah, and this was another thing that Timothy does, the grizzly man who got killed by bears, is that he refused to take any kind of defense with him. He used bear mace once on a grizzly bear, and he said that it traumatized him to such an extent that he decided to never take an he was never going to be armed around bears ever again, because he didn't want to even risk the chance of injuring them under any circumstances. And that was crazy. That was an insane thing that he did. And And as Muffy Graves said, Peanut, I heard, wouldn't be able to survive on its own. No, he would not. Definitely not. I remember a news story about the Dallas Zoo having to get special fruit orders because consumer fruits were too sugary and one monkey had diabetes from it. Yes, that is a very common problem. It especially happens with birds. And again, I know that I've tangented on this before, so I won't reiterate everything that I said, but birds that have high fruit diets are very susceptible to diabetes. You should not have a pet bird on a diet of fruit 24/7, or rather, 365. You should not have, their diet should vary, because if you give them all fruit, all that's going to happen is they are going to become diabetic, they are going to develop a liver disorder, and they are going to die. And they're going to die very painfully. I have seen birds die from liver failure. It is very traumatizing. Very, very unpleasant to watch. But yeah, the Timothy guy, Grizzly guy, he was an idiot. A very good example of what not to do. I very highly recommend the documentary Grizzly Man, because there are some people... Yeah, Rinfriend just brought it up right now. I get the spiritual connection thing, but not understanding you need defense because they're predators that will kill you is insanity. I quite agree. One of the stupidest things that people do is they assume that their knowledge of an animal will allow them to avoid danger. And this is something that happened to Grizzly Man, is that he moved into an area where there were unfamiliar grizzly bears. And well, if we scroll back up again, here we are. Yes, this point that she makes here, that in Alaska or British Columbia there was a lot of food, and so the bears there were used to dealing with humans, and they were used to having full bellies. What Grizzly Man did that eventually killed him was that he followed the bears as they migrated, and he ended up in an area where food was far scarcer. And in fact, it was known at the time that because of the weather conditions, there was far less food available than normal. And there were weaker grizzly bears that were unable to fend for themselves. They were unable to get salmon. They were unable to defend their catches that they did make from other hungry bears. And as a result, there were several rather starving grizzlies that had not had much exposure to humans wandering around. And one night, they just attacked his tent with his girlfriend, and they killed both of them and ate them. Wind scene. Didn't someone interview in the show say this guy is a bit retarded? Yes, they did. And the video that I watched, there was a documentary about him as well, also said the same thing, is that he very clearly had more than a few screws loose. He was convinced that he would not be attacked or killed by these bears. In fact, it was different. He did not have any regard for his own life. He said himself that he expected to be killed by these animals one day. He didn't think that he would be he didn't think that he would be killed by them, but he expected that if he was going to die, he would die at the hands of a grizzly bear. And I think that is a very good example. Yeah, Gigadramon6 said it's actually worse. The bear that actually killed him was a sick, toothless old bear. It ate them both alive. Yeah, that's my point. That's what I was saying, is that he put himself in a situation where he became prey. And this applies to all sorts of animals. It will even apply to your pet cat. It's been the case where people die in their apartments and they are eaten by their pets, which is perfectly normal and is perfectly natural. It's not surprising that it happens. People are often horrified. Stupid people have this attitude like, oh no, it's a domesticated animal, it acts differently. It's going to have a deep spiritual bond with its owner. It's not going to treat them the same way that it would if it was in the wild. Like, no. Bitch, please. That's not going to happen. It's going to act like it's going to act like an animal. Renfriend, so he was expecting it too. Super idiotic, took his girlfriend too. Yep, he took his girlfriend to this place and she wanted to leave. She knew this was a bad idea. And she died too. If he had just been torn to pieces by an old grizzly bear, tragic. But, you know, what do you expect? Yes, Gigadramon6, it's just a domesticated dog, it's a puppy! Actually, do I have this? I'm going a massive tangent at the moment, I do apologize for this. Let me just have a quick look through my history. Ah, yeah, here it is. Just one moment, please, while I turn this to my other channel. I've more or less covered what I want to from this. Is there any sound to this?
Two pit bulls are attacking a car. In fact, they're taking it apart. Surrounding the vehicle from both sides, the pit bulls ferociously go at the Honda, piece by piece. Fenders and other car parts fly into the driveway in Jacksonville, Florida. The owner of the SUV, Christy Barr, couldn't believe it when she saw the damage the following morning. Then she looked at her Ring surveillance footage.
On the video, you could see both of them tugging on it, and they were tugging so hard that my car moved.
It's unclear if the dogs are strays or not. The damage to the SUV, almost $3,000. So, what's got the dogs in such a frenzy? This little guy, the neighborhood cat. There's the frisky feline just before the attack. She actually hid in the engine during the ambush and escaped unharmed.
Nobody believed me until they saw it on tape.
Why wouldn't they believe you unless they saw it on tape? Dash Kinderschredder. Yeah, such good little boys. Goodness, I really hate how my chat is acting tonight. In terms of, not in terms of you guys, in terms of how it's showing on my screen. It's making me miss things, and I don't like that. Zuli, I can't help but remember the story of 1000 Ways to Die, where someone was effing with a bear. Was effing, and then a bear wandered by and killed them looking for food. I think I remember that. That's one of the first things I read on the internet, actually. Ugh. Yes, Azahara-chan, 2 innocent puppers just looking for the nearest child. Justin T. Pitbulls, the din-do-nothing of the canine world. They are most certainly that. Icarus Windrune, hey lol, this is where the dude who walked around the beach with a live rattlesnake on his head claiming he was Jesus is from. Okay, that is just a little bit disturbing. I mean, claiming to be Jesus. Okay, also hello Mayborn Flower, well thank you for entering the asylum. Gigadramon 6, pitfalls are dangerous not because they are cruel, hateful animals, it's because their breeding cross-wired their play and prey drives. They think attacking and killing are playtime. Yes, I think he was high at the time, also Florida. I'm very glad he was high, okay? If he was doing that and he was not high, I would have just a few questions. Just a few questions. Jacksonville is a silly place. I think so too, very much so. Give me one moment. Let me just look at my birds. Oh, that's cute. They're both cuddled up in a corner right now, snuggled together. Very cute. Mm. Mm. Was the snake alive? Speaking of, give me a moment while I... This is another example of the government being not particularly good, shall we say. Shocking video shows wildlife officers killing more than 30 pythons and a pet boa at South Florida reptile facility. After the officers killed a pregnant boa constrictor, their reactions in the video indicate that they immediately realized they had made a mistake. I have a video of this as well, which is slightly less graphic, because this is... I decided not to play this one because it's just a little bit hard to watch. It's a bit too horrible. Officers from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission were caught on video killing dozens of pythons and a pregnant boa constrictor at the reptile facility in South Florida. The USARK in Florida posted a 7-minute video online showing 4 officers killing the reptiles using what appears to be a nail gun. US ARC said the FWC, good grief, the USA really loves its agencies, doesn't it? Killed 29 reticulated pythons and 5 Burmese pythons owned by a man named Chris Coffey, as well as a pet boa constrictor owned by a man named Bill McAdam. After the officers killed the pregnant boa constrictor, their reactions seen in the video may indicate that they immediately realized they had made a mistake. According to US ARC, the 10-year-old pet boa had been misidentified by the officers as a python. I can't watch it, the animals mean a lot to me, Coffey said in the video. It's like watching someone kill my kids. Boas, which are legal to own in Florida, are among the most popular breeds of pet snakes, according to McAdam. According to McAdam, the slaughtered boa was a cherished pet that he had raised since she was a baby. As for the 34 dead pythons, Coffey possessed them legally with a permit that the FWC made obsolete in 2021. Therefore, they say the snakes should have been grandfathered in and exempt from the new regulations. US ARC says after the rules banning the snakes were passed, Coffey was unable to rehome all of his pythons before the FWC deadline, which was only a few months. About a year ago, Coffey allegedly notified FWC that he was having difficulties rehoming his animals and asked for a time extension in an effort to remain on good terms with FWC. However, according to US ARC, FWC responded by raiding Coffey's facility, arresting him, and issuing him 2 charges for each python possessed, for a total of 72 criminal charges. US ARC says that rather than seize the snakes, officers told Coffey that he had to keep them in captivity and that he could not rehome or euthanize them, or else he would be arrested again. Coffey's pythons were maintained at the facility of Bill McAdam in West Palm Beach, where the April 6th visit occurred. FWC said in a statement to NBC6 that the visit was an attempt to determine if all reticulated pythons held at the facility were accounted for, since an escaped or released reticulated python had been found in the general vicinity the day prior. I wonder if the babies inside lived. They did not. They did not. Pythons are a major invasive species in Florida. Icarus Windrun. Let me look back at chat in a minute. I'll finish this article first. Give me 1 second. However, US ARC says the facility visit was an unannounced raid and subsequent massacre. Although according to the FWC, the officers had no intention of euthanizing the animals at the time. Coffey allowed the officers into the facility, where US ARC says they spent around 4 hours killing snakes, firing multiple shots to the heads of some snakes when it appeared the first shots failed to kill them. My back was against a wall. There was nothing I could do, Coffey said. I feel so sorry for this guy. I really, really feel so sorry for this guy. How on earth he has not gone insane and gone on a shooting rampage against the guy? I don't want to glow, guys. I don't want to glow. I don't want to glow. US ARC Florida questions how FWC officers who are not competent enough to identify animals properly are empowered by the state to kill them, says Daniel Parker from US ARC. We believe that in instances where euthanasia is absolutely necessary, the animals should be identified by an expert and only euthanized by a qualified veterinarian using the most humane methods possible. The organization is now calling on Governor DeSantis to hold FWC accountable by demanding the resignation of the FWC employees who gave the order for the killing of the snakes. It's just horrific, said Parker. It's hideous. As an animal lover, even if it's snakes or any kind of animal, to see animals treated like this is just unconscionable. And I have quite a few thoughts on this. My thoughts are not entirely... See, I do think that... how many? Let me just go back to here. He had... Coffey was unable to rehome all of his pythons, So this guy had a very large number of pythons in his care, which is okay. However, when it's a case of animals that are genuinely quite dangerous, because pythons can kill you, they are quite good at killing people. A lot of people have been killed by their pet pythons over the years. However, I don't think that he should have had that many of these snakes in his possession. I think that when I've seen... I have actually watched quite a few videos from the reptile community talking about snake breeders who are rather careless, who... Snake breeding is an interesting rabbit hole to go down. Snake breeding is quite a lot like dog breeding. There are quite a few specialist kind of snakes, and there's quite a few different breeds of snakes that are specifically bred in captivity for private owners. And a lot of them suffer from the same problems that specialist dog breeders have. They're bred to very exacting standards that are basically often amount to very heavy levels of inbreeding. They have very heavy levels of genetic defects, and a lot of them end up getting dumped. Muffy Graves, you need to make sure you have the space and the means to actually care for them. I very much agree. I can't see who is in the blue text because it's too dark. Give me a second. Danny D, I mean, there was a wanted dead bounty on a Nile crocodile that was spotted near Tampa not too long ago. Nile crocodiles are deadly creatures. I think Nile crocodiles can grow up to two tons. They can be heavy as elephants. And if a Nile crocodile wants you dead, sorry, you're going to die. I think that in the case of a Nile crocodile, it is reasonable to shoot first and ask questions later. Because, yeah, you don't want to mess around with a Nile crocodile. Person, do you know about exotic bullies? I am aware of them. Yes, as Gigadramon6 says, Nile crocodiles are one of the few animals that will predate on humans. Indeed, they are incredibly dangerous creatures. I wouldn't be so worried about alligators, but crocodiles, yeah, they are well known to be manhunters and man-eaters. Will people please stop? Sorry, 1 second. I just had to answer one of these DMs. But that was most likely a pet some idiot had, yes. Do people here know about the Harlem tiger? In the meantime, as a horror-chan, I hate the fallacy people in the US spew about keeping guns to stop government tyranny or whatever dumb crap. The government will delete you if you even try to step out of line. I mean, to answer that... Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I think Stone Toss kind of put it best with the whole you shouldn't keep guns because the government can just delete you at any point. I think that, again, Stone Toss very much lampoons this concept very effectively. Again, I don't endorse civil war or anything like that, but yeah, I'm very much of the opinion that when it comes to humans, if you can't physically defend yourself against another human, you are de facto in their power, and I have no problem with somebody owning equipment that prevents another person from having that power over them. Oh god, that idiot in Harlem. Yeah, I watched a documentary on him as well. That was pretty fascinating. And it was interesting that the idiot in Harlem was actually able to keep that tiger under control and pretty tame and very kind of... well, he did manage to treat it as a pet. What happened was he got a house cat as well. For some reason, he decided to mix the fully grown adult tiger and a house cat together. The tiger took offense to the house cat, and that was what riled up the tiger to the point it went wild and tried to kill him, because he kept interfering with it when it tried to attack the house cat, because obviously, you know. And yeah, sorry, I was distracted by saying in chat. That's what led to the Harlem tiger being identified by police, and I think it got put down. Yeah, it did get put down. because it went wild, attacking the cat that this idiot kept in the apartment with it, like a domestic cat. They developed a rivalry, and yeah, in a rivalry between a tiger and a domestic cat, the cat is going to win. He also had lion cubs at some point. Lion cubs, actually, ironically, the tiger didn't go wild or crazy. The tiger went tiger, yeah. Icarus Windrone, at least the dude did not have a liger, also never get between a tiger and whatever it is going at. Indeed, a common fat house cat W. But yeah, sorry. In regards to lions, lions are actually very easy to tame because lions are unique among cats in that they are pack animals. Pack animals are always much easier to tame and domesticate than animals that are solitary. If you take a lion out of the wild, if you take a lion cub and you raise it in captivity, it's almost always going to be basically domesticated because it will simply grow to view the humans around it as its pack. Icarus Windrune, speaking of ligers, there is one down in Miami. As a Hara-chan, if you put a tiger inside your house, it will do tiger things. Hot dogs are plenty, so is Proctor just going to summarize Tiger King? I have never watched Tiger King, and Tiger King is just kind of this insane thing. And although I think that it does highlight, again, the idiocy of people, because what I've noticed very much over the years is that the kind of people that become obsessed with wild animals tend to be the kind of people that have very poor connections with their fellow man. And I understand that to a degree. Because I don't like people. I tend to hate people. I don't like individuals who try and make themselves, who try and pester me, who try and interfere with me. I find most people stupid and irritating. Justin T, if you keep raccoons in the house, it'll do raccoon things. Oh yeah, Fred the raccoon was another was another raccoon who got murdered alongside Peanut. And I quite like raccoons. Maybe it's just because I've never lived in somewhere that has raccoons, so I haven't learned to hate them. I do know they kill things like chickens and so on, so I definitely would not enjoy having a raccoon around because I keep pet birds. But yeah, I think that having a pet raccoon wouldn't be a bad thing. The Birdman of the Emerald Isles. I wish I could have an emu. I like emus. In fact, I would like an ostrich. An ostrich would be cool. You can ride ostriches. I like ostriches a lot. They've got a lot of panache to ostriches. It's kind of funny that our landlord actually once encouraged us to get an emu. I'm glad we didn't, because, you know, our current situation is shit with that. Raccoons are a type of spicy cat. I do like raccoons simply because they look so soft and they look so fluffy. I would love to stroke a raccoon. Like a raccoon's tail as well. Raccoons have an appropriately fluffy tail. Okay, I could stroke a raccoon's tail, right? It's a bit like... There's a reason why I quite like Panko, shall we say. Although Panko's a red panda, not a raccoon, isn't she? But I mean, you know, the red panda, raccoon, whichever... They still have fluffy tails. Both of them have appropriately fluffy tails that I would most definitely huff if given the chance. Proctor being the start of the third great emu war. Maybe the humans will win this one. See, the thing is, emus genuinely are very cute. Emus are very sweet animals. I have been around tame emus, or... I mean, emus are basically domesticated. Like emus, it's ironic, rheas are smaller than emus, but rheas are much, much worse tempered and much more violent. Whereas emus, that's another thing you have to realize about a lot of animals, is that the smaller an animal is, the more aggressive they tend to be. Justin T, raccoons are at best semi-domesticatable. A great deal of work must be made to raccoon-proof a home. They are by far the most adaptable, warm-blooded creature to humans out there. Yeah, because don't raccoons have opposable thumbs? Like, raccoons have the most dexterous hands of any kind of animal, like even more dexterous than primates. Gigadramon6, I've played enough Dwarf Fortress to immediately believe what you said about Rheas. Yeah, Rheas are assholes. They're quite aggressive. They do. Oh yeah, I thought so. Again, I really like raccoons. But I can fully understand just how destructive and dangerous they could be. Does an emu VTuber exist? I have no idea, I'm afraid. Not quite opposable, but most dexterity. Yes, I've seen them. I've seen them grasp things a lot. Chinchilla are an example of small and aggressive. Yeah, chinchillas are a very good example of that. It's why, like my quail even, my quail are a great example of that, is that my quail are tiny and they are adorable, but if you put two of my quail together and they don't like each other, they will rip each other to pieces in a very short order. I had one vicious quail once. Fortunately, he calmed down a lot. It was really funny that he had a wife. He was very, very protective of his wife. His wife died in the end, unfortunately. He was actually one of my sweetest pets in the end, but his wife did die, which was quite sad. I did get him other wives, so he did die in the company of another woman, which is always the best way to go. But yeah, for a while, whenever I touched his wife, whenever I picked up his wife or gave her like mealworms or anything, he would literally fling himself across the entire room at me and peck and claw at my hand, really, really aggressively. And he didn't cause me any damage because quail don't have spurs and they don't have sharp beaks. So yeah, it was kind of more entertaining than it was damaging. But yeah, he was really, really furious at me touching his wife. And I can understand. I don't blame him. But he was not afraid at all of attacking a full-grown human because I had touched his wife. Brave bird, very brave bird. I loved him. I loved him very, very dearly. He did die in the end about 7 or 8 months ago. But yeah, I loved that little bird. He was really, really sweet. Guildmage Troy. Welcome, Guildmage Troy. I think it's the first time you've spoken in my chat this stream. In regards to your question, yes, raccoons have human hands. They can open tent zippers and the latches of chicken coops. That is one of the things that I would be worried about because, yeah, I do keep chickens, and if a raccoon could get into a chicken house, yeah, I know that would not be good. I think raccoons are another animal that will, like, kill lots of birds all at once rather than just be like a fox and just take one and leave. Anyway, let's move past the stone toss thing, and we've seen that one, and yeah, I thought also this was a great example of New York City's hypocrisy with regards to Peanut the Squirrel, because Coffee Black MD said, "I hope you are all aware that the squirrel was in that home illegally." And Susie Red replies, "So are a third of the residents of NYC." And this also ties back to, where was it? Which one was it? Oh yes, this was the exclusive. No, that's not the one. I've got a lot of these. Let's go back to the snake story again. That FWC responded by raiding Coffee's facility. Yeah, about a year ago, Coffee allegedly notified FWC that he was having difficulties rehoming his animals and asked for a time extension and efforts to remain on good terms with FYC. So this is one of the steps this guy took. He contacted the government and asked them and said to them, "Look, guys, I'm trying to cooperate. I am doing my best to comply with your laws. Can you please give me a bit more time because circumstances do not allow me to comply with your laws as fast as I would like to. But I am putting forward a good faith effort in an effort to comply with this law." And look what happened as a result. The FWC responded by raiding Coffee's facility, arresting him, and issuing him 2 charges for each python possessed for a total of 72 criminal charges. And then, after that, look what they did. They said that rather than seize the snakes, officers told Coffee that he had to keep them in captivity and that he could not rehome or euthanize them or else he would be arrested again. So this guy was attempting to comply with the regulations that had been issued to him. He was putting forward a good faith effort to rehome these snakes in compliance with the law. All that he did was notify the authorities and say, hey, I can't do this as fast as you are telling me to. Can you please give me an extension? And their response to that was to arrest him, give him criminal charges, and then tell him, yeah, keep the snakes, but stop trying to comply with the law. Stop trying to rehome them, and you can't even euthanize them. That's insanity. That is absolutely one of the stupidest things that I have read on the internet for a very long time. Person, keep in mind invasive pythons are a massive problem in Florida, and it by and large is because of breeders. I do understand that perspective, definitely. And again, I do feel that this guy, I don't like the fact that he had so many snakes. I do think that he should not have had this many snakes. It's not for me to say, again, let me just emphasize this. I would not ever make the stance and say, ow, you can have 5 snakes, but you can't have 10 snakes. I'm not going to say that. However, from a rational perspective, I do not think that that a person has any real purpose to have that many snakes in his care. I don't think that's particularly sane, honestly. Icarus Windrun person, that is correct. Also, some of the pics of pythons that ceased after eating crocs is bloody to say the least. Pics of pythons that ceased. Did you mean died? Did you say ceased because you can't say died? Would YouTube filter that out? I'm not sure entirely if I get what you mean by that. Sorry, somebody just dropped something in links and info dump. Oh, thank you, Azahara. I will look at that in a moment. That's quite cute. That's quite cute. When I need to give my throat a... There are pictures of pythons bursting after eating an alligator. Woo! Oh my. Guild Mage Troy, Orwell was wrong about places outside of Britain. Dystopia seems to be some combination of Brave New World and Brazil, or, quotes, we. But Proctor, capitalism at the expense of nature, no, I can see you saying died. Yeah, been getting filthy. Oh, I see what you mean, Icarus Windrune. I'm very sorry. Again, let me just emphasize, I am not moderating my chat in any way. There are no banned words in my chat filter or anything aside from the very obvious ones like the N-word, slurs, and so on. So I am not... I have no capacity in any way to make my chat less censored for people. The removal of messages is entirely YouTube's problem. If I could turn it off, I could. YouTube does not physically give me the ability to turn off the kind of censorship that happens in my chat. I am very sorry. Let me have a look up here, because there was a conversation that I think that... Yes, person, to be frank, there is a danger in keeping a squirrel because I don't think you can immunize them for rabies. Still shouldn't have happened. Then Icarus Windrune said, person, as far as I know, there has never been a recorded case of a squirrel transmitting rabies to a human. Then Gigdramon6 said the exact same thing. Danny D said, also I saw one spicy tweet say, if he had 7 years to get permits for peanut, then illegals should get the same treatment. I am legit a little worried about tensions in the US cities. Guildmage Troy, the rednecks and hillbillies are hunting the pythons for bounties in Florida. Nature is healing. Like, I think it's also cane toads in Australia and also rabbits. Known being the keyword, a ton of people that get rabies aren't awake when they get bit. Rabies is definitely a really horrifying terrifying, awful disease. Oh, sorry, I've just realized that my glasses are really filthy for some reason. Let me just wipe them off because they're all smeared for some reason. I love wearing glasses. I think I'm one of those people that actually manages to look very good wearing glasses, but it is most irritating to me how much maintenance they take. Yeah, this is managed to smear them. That's really irritating. Come on, there we go. There we are. Just get a pet opossum. They are pretty easy to domesticate and can't get rabies along with eating ticks. Danny D. Feral cats, cane toads, rabbits, and foxes in Australia are invasive and destructive, if I remember correctly. Zool, there are studies that showed that opossums don't actually eat ticks. Our guinea fowl eat ticks. They are wonderful for that. Guinea fowl are incredibly, incredibly good for pest control. Unfortunately, well, let me just do the guinea fowl thing again. This is what guinea fowl sound like. And now I'm going to have nightmares. They are rather dramatic birds. Guildmage Troy, iguanas are also dangerous invasive species in Florida. When it gets cold, they go to sleep and fall out of trees. Oh my, holy shit. Can you eat guinea fowl eggs or not? You can. The guinea fowl eggs taste delicious, actually. Guinea fowl eggs I would describe as, they're very rich. If you crack open a guinea fowl egg, you will be very surprised by how yellow it is. They have very, well, actually not so much yellow. They have deep, deep golden orange eggs. Egg yolks, rather. Dinosaur noises.mp3. Geekdramon 6, I find it very interesting that both animals that get called guinea tend to be very vocal. Guinea pigs also make cute little noises. Yeah, I didn't read that properly. Iguanas are also dangerous invasive species in Florida. Oh yeah, no, I did read that. There's a special weather alert there because they get big enough to injure. That's hilarious to me that Florida has its own weather alert warning iguanas may fall out of trees on your head. Cloudy, that's the sequel to Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Cloudy with the Chance of Iguanas. Oh, that's really, really funny. I will have to remember that. Florida is a magical place. A genuinely magical place. I'm getting lost in the tabs again. Give me one moment. No, do not open that. But yeah, my summary of this article is that we've already established a very clear trend here that if you go to the government and say to them, hey, I'm doing my best to comply with your stupid law, can you please give me a bit more time? They will go after you and they will attack you, and then they will make your life so much of an issue that you won't even be able to comply with the law that they have asked you to comply with. Because this is the insane part of it, is that these people told this poor guy that he couldn't even continue to rehome his snakes after they'd already told him to rehome his snakes. Which is just insanity. And my takeaway from this is that, pardon me, is that he should not have even tried to inform the government about this. And I tend to be a fairly law-abiding guy, but I have encountered this multiple times. If you go to the government, and this applies just as much to the Irish government as it applies to the American government, and you tell them you are trying to comply with something, they will come and they will arrest you. Rave Master J, nice to see you in my chat, by the way. That is correct. Tell the government nothing. Gidramon 6. The unfortunate reality there is that by saying you're trying to comply demonstrates that you won't fight back against them for trying to make their bureaucratic balls tingle at your expense. Exactly. And this is another video that I'm not going to play in full because it's nearly 10 minutes long. In fact, I might play it for a bit because I actually do need to go to the bathroom soon. But Lewis Rossman is a person who I feel is a very good person to listen to when it comes to the government, because he's a very black-pilled individual about government. And yay, Rossman, Lewis Rossman is a wonderful person, a very wonderful person. It's a shame he is so tiny. He's a tiny, tiny, tiny man. I think he's like 5'6" or something. Valet, it really is best to wait for them to discover you most of the time, it seems. Absolutely. Gabriel Kronos, I'll never be happy with how evil the government acts these last years. I quite agree too. I kind of spurged out a bit in Discord earlier about COVID restrictions and everything, and I do sincerely apologize that I was so charged about it to certain people that were, trying to have a conversation. But yeah, I'm very, very much, very, very much against the government for all the stuff they did regarding COVID. Justin T, what government that doesn't know what hurt you? Of course he's tiny, he's from NYC. Give me a second, I need to blow my nose, by the way. Yeah, but Lewis Rossman is somebody who has had a massive share of abuse from NYC. And a lot of this video is a great example of that. But in the past, he has explained how his... one of the things that he talks about is government garbage collection. Because in NYC, the government would fine you if they found garbage on your street corner. And the problem is that this creates a perverse incentive. Because if your street was clean, then it meant that the government could not make money off you by fining you for garbage being on your street corner. And so as a result, the police would develop this habit, is that every time the garbage truck would go past, they would follow behind the garbage truck to wait until something fell off the back of the garbage truck, so they could immediately run into the shop fronts of everything on both sides of the street and issue them fines for the garbage that had just fallen off the back of the garbage truck. Yeah, Muffy Graves, oh god, yet they don't pick it up anymore. Exactly. So when you have these systems where the government has a direct incentive to make you break the law because they get more money out of you than if you are a law-abiding citizen, why would you ever trust the governor? Why would you ever trust the government? New York is like California. They try to tax you even if you leave. Yeah, I know. And Muffy Graves saying Canada does that too. So I need to rub my eye. Ow. Ow. That is so irritating. Ow. Guildmage Troy, why are the productive people leaving NY and California? Why did we leave the plantations from Appalachia, idiots? Yeah, and it creates a vicious cycle as well, because, as Lewis Rossman has commented many times, if you devise a system of government where there is no incentive for good and hard-working people to stay, then as the good and hard-working people leave, your tax income will go down. And as a result, you need to start squeezing the people that are left for more tax income, which in turn creates a greater burden on those people, so more of them will try and leave. So it's a vicious cycle. Gigadramon 6, governments also have a perverse incentive to pass bad laws. They can pass an ineffective law, then when it doesn't have a meaningful effect on what they said, they can pass another round of bad laws. Yep. That's also something that is covered quite extensively in The Vision of the Anointed, which is why I recommend that book so much. Muffy Graves, I can show you how much Canada has gone downhill, like NATO doesn't even want us anymore. Least Alberta is trying to fight the rest of the country. I really do have a lot of sympathy for the Californians that are actually kind of based. I remember when some members of my church went to Canada to visit relatives, and they were absolutely shocked. They told us several stories when we came back. They said they were completely shocked at how they visited a town, and in that town, every single car had a "fuck Justin Trudeau in the arse" bumper sticker. Like, that's what they said. They said every single car had that sticker. And I'm just like, how do you get like that? How do you get like that? Like, even the Irish who hate governments don't get that extreme when they want to change the government. Canada, the home of non-stop infinite roadwork. I mean, when I was in Philadelphia, I was shocked at the lack of roadworks, honestly. Magdalena's Rex. This is why, unless you have a Caligula on your hands, a monarchical system tends to be less arbitrary and neurotic as a democratic system, which incentivizes this sort of lowbrow corruption. I mean, in fairness, a monarch is easier to find and kill if he gets the job wrong. Muffy Graves, he won't step down is the issue. Yeah, most certainly he won't. Icarus Windrune Valet, not to mention there is only one road connecting East Canada and West Canada, and never the twain shall meet. But yeah, Lewis Rossman is a great person to discuss for things like this. It is a little bit too long for me to listen to, because there's so much else that I want to talk about. There was another article I thought was worth talking about, because this is, as I accidentally showed earlier, Freya the walrus, did she have to be euthanized? By Nadim Shah. Of course it's a foreign name like that. Let me just zoom in a little bit. There we go. In mid-July, when was this again? Yeah, the 19th of August, this was 2022. In mid-July, a 900-kilogram walrus, affectionately named Freya, appeared near Norway's capital city in the Oslo fjord. Not one to remain low-key, she soon became a local celebrity, as videos of her awkwardly and slowly scrambling onto boats went viral. However, less than a month after her first appearance, Freya was killed by government authorities, having been deemed a danger to the public. This has not gone down well. Some went as far as to accuse Norway of murdering the mammal, while an online fundraising campaign for a bronze statue has raised almost £20,000 in a matter of days. Indeed, the outrage, which fanned out far beyond Norway's borders, has been such that even the country's prime minister has been forced to comment, saying putting Freya down was the right decision. But still people are asking, could Freya have been saved? Freya's journey to Oslo most likely started in the Arctic, but over the last year she appeared to have undertaken a European tour, with sightings in UK, Dutch, Danish and Swedish waters. Everywhere the walrus went she attracted attention, but in Norway this started to worry officials. Photographs showed large crowds gathered on the edge of the water, standing within touching distance. Meanwhile, reports emerged in local media of Freya chasing a woman into the water, while one kayaker described a scary encounter with the animal when she came too close to his vessel. Walruses are unpredictable in their behavior, says Eric Bourne, a senior scientist at the Greenland Institute of Natural Resources, and are perfectly able to catch a seal between their front flippers and stab them to death. As the walrus got closer to people, or the people got closer to her, there was an obvious danger. Having a half-ton walrus with sharp tusks swimming among people is pretty risky, Dr. Bourne says. What's more, walruses have been known to attack scuba divers and small boats, although these cases are few and far between. Let me look at the chat again for a second. Of course, people are talking very extensively about monarchy again. The problem I have with neo-reactionaries is that for all the things that they complain about historically happened more frequently and more drastically under monarchs with actual power. Imagine getting owned by a walrus. The neo-reactionaries are like most people who say the past was utopia-like. They don't understand it was still made up of flawed and evil people. Very, very, very flawed people. Vale, if we can move whales and such about, if it was so easily spotted, I'm sure it could be trapped and captured. And as Rave Master J said, but under a monarchy, at least you knew it was who was doing it when it happened. With the current bureaucracy, no one is at fault. Yes, Zuli, let's also not forget about the albino grizzly bear that keeps getting mistaken as a polar bear by governments and NGOs. But it went so far as to escape captivity just to not be with polar bears. I love how people have started discussing monarchy and so on in this conversation about walruses, squirrels, and other various things. Give me a moment because I got an opinion from General as well. Oh, damn. That's really nasty. Sorry, somebody just pinged me about something again. I think it's kind of pointless to discuss democracy on monarchy and so on, especially not in my stream, because I only believe in one person who is fit to rule the world, and he happens to not be part of the world. So, yeah, until he decides to come on a winged horse, surrounded by other angels, I'm not really particularly invested in human monarchies. Mads Frost Bertelsen. I'm not even going to bother pronouncing that name in the future. The zoological director at Copenhagen Zoo says this is not surprising. Walruses tend to live in remote areas, which means they don't often come into contact with humans. That means statistics on the incidents are low, but he points out they are capable of inflicting serious damage. So would Prof. Bettelstein have come to the same decision as the Fisheries Ministry? He says he would. The blame, however, does not sit with Freya, according to Dr. Jeff, a consulting Arctic marine mammal biologist from Canada with experiences of walruses. Human behavior significantly increased risk in this case, he says, questioning why common sense did not... Why common sense... Why common sense did not prevail. It's a bunch of tourists. Are you kidding? Everyone who crowded that animal put themselves and their children at risk and contributed to the unfortunate outcome. But not everyone agrees that the risk inevitably should have led to Freya's death. The risk was potential rather than demonstrated. Indeed, says Fern Wixon. Indeed, she says, the level of risk posed by Freya was no greater than those we regularly tolerate in our society and daily lives. That the government chose to take Freya's life rather than try to manage this potential risk through implementing more effective measures to manage the behavior of people was surprising and disappointing. Which is a very good point. This is another thing you see crop up time and time again in these incidences. Is the government repeatedly decides that it's just going to murder the animal. It doesn't care about exploring other alternatives. All of these governments, which say they care about the environment, that say they care about wildlife, that say they're very green, that say they want to save wild animals, they want to save the environment, etc., they're all extremely ready to just murder any animal they decide is getting too close to humans. And this is something I profoundly disagree with. I profoundly disagree with the government's attitude towards wildlife. I touched on this earlier in stream. But we already established that the vast majority of wild animals are on the brink of starvation. The vast majority of wild animals are also live very short and very violent lives. If you see a mother duck shepherding, say, 20 baby ducklings across a road in the wild, the odds are that one of those ducklings will survive a single year. Every single other one of those ducklings will be dead within 9 to 12 months. So the vast majority of animals do not live even 1 year. 90% of all baby animals die within 6 months. That includes prey, that includes predators. The numbers are beyond staggering. Beak whale, all the green is a front in their houses. They keep their pelts as trophies like old aristocrats. Yes, that's also a noteworthy point to make. Zen Gunman, just remember, you are the carbon that they want to reduce. Yeah, and the fact of the matter is that if you take in an animal from the wild and you actually bother to care for it properly, you're probably going to give that animal a life that is 10 times longer than it's going to live in the wild. It's just that simple. As a rural-raised person, I've never understood the sanitized, fluffy view people have of nature. Yeah, it's another problem. Zen Gunman, as a man who regularly herds mother ducks and their ducklings out of the street, that hits close to home. It's why I don't really have too much of an emotional connection to my little quail, because they're transitory animals. I've done what I can for them. They all live multiple times the length of a quail would in the wild, and when they die, it's really sad, but I mean, that's just the way they live their lives. Their lives are short and they are fast, and in the wild they would be exceptionally violent. I think that nature conservation is something that every single person should take an interest in, but that interest should be an educated interest. And there is a vast amount of information out there, and this is another thing that I find very, very irritating, is that I have in the past taken care of wild birds that have had their nests destroyed, or my little quail, the hot new autism cartoon. Quail are adorable. I love my quail. But yes, I have taken care of baby birds that have had their nests destroyed by high winds or other storms in the past, and I have found it incredibly irritating how difficult it has been to extract information from conservationists or wildlife rehab centers. When about, goodness, it's nearly 8 years ago now. 8 years or so ago, there was a baby blackbird that had its nest destroyed. I'm pretty sure it was by a predator, a hawk actually, and this baby blackbird survived. And I obviously picked this baby blackbird up. It had just started to get its adult feathers, but it was still completely helpless, and it was an unusually cold spring as a summer as well. And so I knew for a fact this blackbird would be dead if I left it outside, and so I took it in and I cared for it. And it was a very sweet little thing, actually. I kept her for quite a few weeks, and I let her go, and she flew away afterwards, but she was very sweet. But I contacted a whole bunch of organizations about, what do I do with this bird? I mean, I wasn't afraid of being able to care for this bird myself, because we care for baby birds all the time, but I wanted to make sure that I was taking care of it properly. And basically all of them responded in the same way. we can't give you any information. You need to sign up to our services first. You need to become a member of our organization and go through this quiz, and you have to so and so and so on. Aside from that, we can't give you any information aside from, like, either take it to a vet and have it euthanized or just leave it outside, okay? And I'm like, so you're basically saying that I should let this creature die rather than help it in any way? And they were like, well, we can't give you direction one way or another, but our principles would be that in a case like that, yes, you should you just let it die. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that, thank you. And it's another case of bureaucracies and agencies making it arbitrarily hard to deal with this kind of thing. Because if there's not good information out there for people to use, that's not how it should work. Exactly, Guildmate Troy. It should not work like that, and it distresses me when it does. I find it incredibly stupid and difficult to deal with when organizations gatekeep information simply because they need to keep up appearances. And it's also a case where whenever you try and get any kind of help for a wild animal, organizations get immediately very cagey because it's illegal to keep these kind of animals as pets. And so whenever you show up with a bird or an animal that has been injured or whatever, and they don't know where it came from, they're like, are you keeping this thing as a pet? We're going to have to kill this thing because we can't give it back to you because we don't know if you're going to keep it as a pet. So we have to take it from you and we have to kill it. That's what they'll do. I would never take one of these animals to a vet because the vet will always tell me the same thing. I can't let you take it back. Also, we don't have any space to keep it, so all I can do is euthanize it. And I'm like, what the hell are you saying? That is just absurd and nonsensical. I should not have to listen to this nonsense. So now my attitude is, I'm not going to tell the government anything. If I come across an injured wild animal, I'm going to treat it and care for it to the best of my ability. I am not getting a vet involved. I am not getting any other organization involved. Because I can't trust them. I cannot trust these organizations to actually care for this animal. I believe that they would, without any hesitation, take these animals and kill them. Guildmate Troy, don't ask, don't tell, it never existed and I was never there. Yeah, it goes back to the boa constrictor case. Never tell the government anything like this, because the moment that they're involved, there's a paper trail. There's bureaucracy. And bureaucracy will screw you over without shame every single chance it gets. I like crows. I love crows. I've forgotten, but what was the type of bird Mao hated? Mao hated sparrows. He had that thing where he killed all the sparrows, which was very clever of him. What the hell? Sorry, somebody just posted this thing on Discord, which is just complete insanity. Okay, that's worth putting on. I'm gonna put this on the screen. You get to read this while I go and have a slash. Feel free to comment. Feel free to comment while I go to the bathroom. It might be 2 seconds. Thank you all for waiting for me. I don't really have any words for this. Thank you, Moth, for posting this on the Discord for me to laugh at. Zen Gunman, thank you, Mark Zuckerberg, for your efforts in preventing the random sodomization of our young men. Real men cuck for Harris. Come here, ladies. Now land on my dick. See stream links? Give me a moment. I will gander at these stream links. Stream material. Oh, hot dogs at plenty. Shared something quite good. Unluckiest polar bear. Albino brown bear. Dude, I don't think Zoomers were ready for just how casually homoerotic your average shooter is. I threatened to rape a dude today at dinner because he said I liked black and white movies and dressed like a black grab. What the hell am I reading? What the hell am I reading? Tice, what is this? Sorry, just give me 1 second, please. Even I wonder that too, Proctor. Oh dear. Begun the bussy... Begun the bussy jihad. Oh, good grief. Let me have a look at this one too. It's a pretty good one. She rescues foxes, but Lakeville says she has too many. How long is this? It's actually a fairly short article, so I can go into this. Michaela Rains says her fight for foxes is not over. A year ago, Lakeville officials let Rains keep foxes that she rescues from fur farms, as long as she lives in her 10-acre property and does not have more than 3 of the animals at a time. The city says she has not been living up to her end of the bargain and is now considering whether to revoke her intern use permit. According to the city, Rains has been keeping more than the 3 foxes allowed. Now, this is quite an interesting case for me because I know another case of this. There is a woman on YouTube who has a fox sanctuary. I think, I don't remember her name, but one of her foxes is called Finnegan. And I do remember that there was, I don't know if it ever went anywhere, but there was a lot of controversy about her. Because this might have just been a cat fight thing. I don't remember the details, but she was accused by several other people. Save a fox. Yes, save a fox. Basically, she was accused of being a scam artist and also for abusing the foxes in her care. I believe their accusation was that she used to have other foxes that she mistreated and eventually died, and she had basically tried to pretend that those foxes never existed and that the fox she called Finnegan was the only one that was still around. Like, basically, she had kind of done the Stalin and unpersoned the foxes that had died over the years due to her lack of care from the videos, and she kind of pretended that only Finnegan was still around. Again, I haven't looked into that very much. I know a fox lady, of course you do. I am what you might call a connoisseur of fox ladies. The Planning Commission is scheduled to hold a go with that. City Associate Planner Frank Dempsey said Wednesday that the city received a tip in June 2016 that Rains had more than 3 foxes. He said he visited Rains at her property and she told him she had 4 foxes. This past March, Dempsey made another visit, and he said he counted 5 foxes, and she told him another had gotten loose several weeks before and was still missing. Contacted Wednesday, Rains did not deny that she was violating the term of the permit, Oh, goodness me. She said she currently has 5 adult foxes and 4 cubs, which she is bottle feeding. She said when she agreed to the terms of the permit, she didn't know her passion for foxes would turn into a rescue, which goes by Mick Doolittle's Fox Rescue. And now I have 5, oh my gosh, 2 more on 10 acres with surrounding woods that nobody can see. She said, it's a big issue to them, I guess. You can't see them from the street, they're not loud and they don't stink. Yeah, foxes do stink. Wait, is this the same woman? Finnegan speaks his mind while on a long leash in the yard at Mikhail. Is this the same woman? I think she is. Did somebody mention it in the chat? I posted the controversy in the Discord. Fox. This is the same woman. She's got to be. This is... Yeah, here it is. Here, I'm not sure if I can open this properly, so give me a second, please. To check this on my main thing. Yeah, so this is the woman. Oh God, I hate. Yes, this is the woman. This is the same woman. It is the same one. This is the woman. I'll finish this article first, and I'll get on to that. Because she she's very she had a ton of videos on YouTube. And this is the same. Look, Finnegan that's the name of her fox, Finnegan Fox. The 22-year-old said she plans to ask the city to amend her permit to keep the foxes. She said the city should take into account that the property is zoned agricultural and that fur farm foxes are considered agricultural animals under state statute. So I should be able to have as many as someone could have pigs or horses or whatever out there. Furthermore, she said she never gave Dempsey permission to inspect the property, which is owned by her mother. He just showed up one day, she said. I was in the fox cages and turned around and he was standing right there. Rains has a USDA license to exhibit and sell foxes, but does the latter own the fox sanctuaries, or people who have track records of owning foxes, preferably with a license similar to hers. Most of her foxes are rescues, born in captivity with some defect that makes them unappealing to the fur farms that would ultimately kill them, she said. These animals are my life, adding she just received non-profit status for the rescue operation a week ago. Rains and her foxes, one goes by the names of Farah Foxette, have attracted a large following on social media, where they have more than 50k followers on Instagram and 750 followers on Facebook. Many of those followers are expressing their support at the city's expense. They need to butt out and get a life, one Facebook commentator wrote. Rules are rules, Dempsey said. It's a position we have to take, he said. It sounds heartless, but that's not the point. The point is to get compliance with the zoning ordinance. Okay, now, let me go on to this. I'll put back to just chatting for a second because Tumblr spams out a whole lot of pop-ups whenever I open it. Is this going to massively spam things at me? No, I think we're good. Black-backed jackal reblogged orange lion fur and taxidermy. What foxes has Save a Fox stolen? I was appalled to see the new fox she got recently. Finnegan is stolen, and I know the owner of Saves a Fox has done it before. And here she is. I've stolen foxes from bad situations before. We just got a break-in and told them... We just got a break-in and take them when they're not home. How do you all think I got Finnegan? This screenshot is from a Google Drive set up by people who have first-hand experienced Saves a Fox's horrible treatment of animals and people. Someone I know went to volunteer and came back disgusted by how things are handled at the rescue. Some more evidence. The money donated for foxes is not you. Oh, okay. Kelly D. Cruz says, after working there for almost 3 years and being a close friend to the founder, I can confirm that little of the money donated goes to the animals. I say the IRS needs to audit for a very good reason. Is there anything more here? Saves a Fox buys foxes from fur farms. The first fur farmer wants like $300 each. This other guy with other colors you won't find anywhere else, has said wants 400 to 500. His marbles are 250 though. I'm getting 2 platinums in later this evening from the second fur farmer I was talking with for 400 each. Let me know if you know anyone who wants platinums. I'll still be getting more fur farm kits in a week or 2. Friendly reminder, I hate her stupid ass for personal reasons, and only after I got into it did I find all this shit out. I'm not going to open that Google Drive right now. Animal hoarders. Animal women are Menhera news at 11. Yeah, and this, I think, is a great example of why I do think there should, in fact, be some oversight in the case of owning wild animals, because my view is fairly nuanced. I do not think that people should just be allowed to own wild animals, and especially should not hoard wild animals. And I have the same opinion towards the guy with all those boa constrictors. I do not think he should have had as many snakes as he did. His massive mistake was talking to the government about it, but yeah, he should not have had that many snakes, and this woman should not have as many foxes. I would say that on average, 1 person per exotic pet is an acceptable ratio. Even more so if you have the case of basically using these animals for publicity on social media. That's a bad thing to do, and I think this is also one of the problems with the whole Peanut the squirrel thing. Where are we? This is Glenn Greenwald. Justin T, yeah, but Proctor wants to hoard 1 wild fox. She's not a wild fox, okay? She's a fox that always wants to stay indoors. Zuli, last time I watched their video, there was 15 to 20 foxes. I'm sorry, that's animal hoarding by that point. You've lost all claim to it when we had that many. She even has a site in Florida now. Yeah, I don't like her. I really don't like that woman. Clear out my pings. There we go. Yeah, Glenn Greenwald says, one of the most disgusting parts of NY State executing a search warrant for 5 hours to find and then kill Peanut the squirrel was that he was the way this couple raised funds for their amazing animal rescue shelter. Peanutsfreedomfarm.com. Yeah, this was the details of all of this. Oh, I like that chicken. That's a very cute chicken. 7 years ago, a tiny baby fluffy squirrel entered our lives and changed everything. Peanut the squirrel quickly captured hearts and became a household name. Despite being reintroduced to the wild, Peanut faced adversity, losing half of his tail in a severe attack, without developing essential wildlife instincts. Peanut became an indoor, non-releasable squirrel. Remarkably, Peanut went on to become the first squirrel to amass over 1 million, then 2 million followers on TikTok, combined with a social media following of over 3 million. Thanks to the overwhelming love and support from our dedicated followers, we established Peanut's Freedom Farm. This sanctuary is a haven where neglected and homeless animals receive a second chance at life. And once again, I'm a bit torn on this. I do feel as if there is too much of a conflict of interests here. I'm okay with the idea of somebody keeping a wild animal as a pet. I would keep I would love to have a raven as a pet. That'd be fine for me. I'd love to have a raven. You know what I wouldn't do if I had a raven as a pet? I would not make my raven a social media phenomena, okay? There would not be videos of me taking my raven out for walks and teaching my raven how to speak and displaying my raven in public and asking people to come and pet my tame raven, okay? I would not be doing that. No, you wouldn't. Ravens are insanely intelligent. That's why I love them. I love intelligent pets. Ah. Ooh, I love that water. Mod it on the forums. It would probably do a better job than the average janitor, honestly. Zen Gunman, there's a difference between I saved this squirrel and now he's acclimatized to life in the house versus I got like 50 foxes. Madlinus Rex, ravens apparently make bad pets. They're too smart and they act like spoiled children and will have a grudge if you discipline them. I am aware of how ravens operate. There's actually ravens in my wild ravens in my area and I love them. I love all corvids. I think that corvids are amazing creatures and I really hope that I get to interact with them more. I love feeding wild crows and also magpies and jackdaws. There's some that are extremely tame near my local garage that I'm able to feed by hand, and I think it's really, really sweet when they walk up to you and they take food right out of your hand. I love that. I think that crows are completely adorable creatures. Zen Gammon, ravens are absolutely befriendable. It just takes a lot of French fries. Don't feed them French fries. Feed them meat. Give them some meat. They'll appreciate you a lot more if you give them some meat. Iquus Rinrune, corvids are awesome. They also intrinsically hate owls. We don't have owls in our area, sadly. Magdalene Rex, don't get me wrong, I adore crows, and that's why I searched up if they would make good pets. The trouble is that they can acclimatize themselves to you, but the trouble is, once they are friendly with you, they also start treating other humans as friends as well, and that's where the problems start. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she had a pet jackdaw, and she loved that jackdaw, and it was a lovely jackdaw. The trouble was that it was a thief, and it would fly into people's rooms, and it would steal things from them. It was an inveterate thief. She was constantly having to return things that this jackdaw had stolen from other people. And that's a problem with those extremely intelligent birds, because they have minds of their own, and I don't blame them. I would never keep birds, apart from obviously my domesticated birds. We used to have indoor birds, but we couldn't keep them because my mother developed lung issues. She has severe scarring on her lungs, and so she was unable to keep birds indoors because the dust from their wings started to damage her lungs even further. But if I want more birds, but I would not keep them indoors. I would create a full outside aviary for them. Guildmage Troy, ravens in Japan can tell the difference between Japanese and English and will go to the English speakers because the tourists give more food. Icarus Windrune, yeah, they can also recognize you even if you disguise yourself. Some uni students found that out the hard way. Rave Master J, ouch, yeah, it's a difficult thing, it's a bad thing, but I mean, she's surviving perfectly well at the moment, which it's unfortunate we had to get rid of our indoor birds, but at the same time, after we got rid of them, I did think long and hard about it, and I was like, no, I can't justify it. I don't think that it's humane. I don't think that birds should be kept in indoor cages. I would not keep budgies, canaries, anything like that indoors. They should be outside. They should be in a large aviary with plenty of room to fly around, because otherwise they just don't get enough exercise and they tend to die. That is a practice that I would end. I would make it... I wouldn't make it illegal. Maybe I would, I'm not sure, but I would put it this way, I would very strongly discourage people from keeping indoor birds, shall we say. And I hate how pet shops keep birds. I hate going into a pet shop and seeing these little cages that birds are kept in. That really hurts me. I really hate that. They should be kept in a large aviary. It keeps them healthier, it keeps them better in every way. They should not be kept in those small cages. Ow. Icarus Windrune, yeah, some corvids memorized them by their way of walking and their builds after about a month of being tormented. Don't mess with crows. Hot dogs are plenty. I must be kept in a birdcage, I guess. Why? Why would I keep you in a birdcage? 1984, literally. No, you should be grateful that I don't have power in the world because, yeah, there's a lot of things that I would stop people from being able to do because I don't think they should be doing it. And I do also find this interesting because apparently Shiori Novella of Hololive also noticed this. And then somebody, of course, immediately photoshopped a Make America Great Again hat on her. You got a license for that budgie? Crows have blood feuds just like humans do. I know, I've actually witnessed them myself. So this thing really, really hit the mainstream very hard. And there's also, yeah, this is another thing that I feel like bringing up as well. A thing that I don't like about these social media things. Innocent people get blamed, and this was something that happened. As far as I'm aware, this has been debunked. Wait a sec. Yeah, this is the woman. This is the woman here that people... This woman, Monica Kalasar, is apparent because Peanut the Squirrel and Fred the Raccoon were both killed because of an anonymous complaint that the person that was received by the government... Icarus Windrune, this lady did have other messed up things, if I remember correctly, though. I mean, quite possibly, entirely possibly. But for some reason or other, people latched on to this woman as being the source of the anonymous complaint. And I should note how ridiculous it is that New York State has a massive crime problem, a massive drug problem, a massive homeless problem. The government completely fails to address any of those problems. In fact, as Louis Rossman pointed out in his video, he had packages stolen off his porch every week for 20 years in a row, and the government never did anything about it. It was completely useless and pointless to report any of those stolen goods, because he knew for a fact that nothing would happen. And yet, when a department gets one anonymous complaint about a squirrel and a raccoon, they immediately show up and they raid the guy's place, and they turn it inside out to find this squirrel and this raccoon, and they immediately kill them. That just says something about the priorities of the government now, doesn't it? Give me just a moment to look at chat, because it's scrolled far too fast for me to have a rational look at it. That woman did have like selling / making medication without FDA testing or approval. Okay. That's really weird. Guildmage Troy, solving crime is hard. The NY government went for what was easiest. Yes. Zerstora, ha, keep voting blue, and this is the end result. I mean, look at Florida. Here's the thing. I do push back on that, because Florida is a very red state, and look at what happened with those boa constrictors. Look at the way the law was weaponized against that poor guy, who was he was trying to conform with the law, and the government specifically acted to prevent him from getting rid of his snakes the way they wanted him to. They condemned him as a criminal because he contacted them and said, hey guys, could you give me a little bit more time to do this thing that you have told me to do? It's not a matter of red versus blue. Incompetent government agencies will be incompetent whether they are red or blue. Icarus Windrune, Florida is red nationally, but a bit more mixed statewide / locally. I mean, a lot of places are like that too. It's just like Texas. Texas is red, but is slowly getting a bit more paused nowadays, shall we say? And this is what I would encourage people when you take this to a political standpoint, again, I do not have any interest in supporting governments. However, if you want to be an informed voter or whatever, sorry, dearie me, I consider it mandatory for people to first of all get a decent political education. Second of all, they should look through the governing apparatus of their states. And then they should sit down and they should seriously think about what is a liberal government or a conservative government or whatever government I would like to see in power going to do about these agencies. Do they have a specific plan for changing how these agencies operate so they are less like the way they are now and more like I want them to be? If whoever you're voting for does not have a concerted plan for those kind of eventualities, you don't owe them a vote. That's my opinion on things. And unfortunately, the way democracy is, you're almost never going to get that. This is why I follow Glenn Greenwald so much, is that he's pointed out that red or blue, it's basically a case of the uniparty, because the guys at the top will shuffle around, but how many people on the lower rungs of the political order ever shift? I think one of his great examples is Victoria Nuland, who it doesn't matter which side of the government is in power, whether it's red or blue. Like, Victoria Nuland is still out there interfering with the activities of other nations, is still wielding power in the world, is still power brokering in Ukraine, whatever. She doesn't care. She doesn't care who's in charge. Nobody stopped her. Nobody stepped in or interfered with her. At worst, she's been dismissed from her post like once or twice and then immediately gets back in again. If these governments are not going to move the people who have the actual administrative power beneath them, it doesn't matter whether it's red or blue. Muffy Graves, yeah, I'm going to be voting for a party I'm not fully behind because my purple team won't win at all. I mean, I'm not saying become a doomer, don't vote for anybody because you're never going to make an impact. Again, I am not going to vote, but I'm not going to tell you not to vote. All I'm saying is, I think it's the responsibility of everybody in a democratic society to be fully aware of the mechanisms of democracy, because both sides benefit by you being an idiot and by you being ignorant of how the system works. An informed voter is a dangerous voter, whereas a stupid voter is easy to manipulate. And it's a toxic problem that always gets worse, because if you think about it, if one side, let's say you're a conservative, and you want to get into power so you can make what you feel are genuine, good, excellent changes that on an objective level are good changes to make. And you look at the political landscape and you realize you are not going to be able to get elected on the basis of the promises that you want to make. And so instead, what you have to do is dumb your message down so that people vote for you and they vote you into power, but for different reasons than you actually want to get into power. Like, you want to appeal to the lowest common denominator because there aren't that many people that are intelligent enough to understand the kind of government principles that you intend to govern on. And so you dumb your message down and people support you on that basis. So even if you get into power and your intentions are sincerely good, you are now beholden to an electorate that have voted you in for reasons that you don't fully support. And so you're going to have less power to implement the changes that you want to, because then people will be like, wait, we didn't vote for you for that reason, why are you doing that thing over there? So if voters are ignorant, then the government is going to be stupid as well, because the government has to pander on some level to the will of the people. And if the people are stupid, the government's got to act pretty stupid too. Icarus Windrune, yeah, reminds me of the Texas heartbeat bill debacle. People say it is one thing, but reading it shows that it is a different thing entirely. Yes. Zuli, when I'm at the state level, House and Senate is full of Republicans in name only, so it is very hard for anything for us to change. So it is very hard for us to change anything, especially when we have a Democrat governor. Muffy Graves, I do try to share what I can for the party I want. They just don't have the funding to be against the Libs, Corps, Cons, or NDP. I mean, to give my full and honest opinion on the whole thing, everything has to tie back to education. Educated voters have to exist. And there is a very good reason why so much effort has been put into dumbing down the education system. Because stupid people are easy to lead and easy to manipulate. It does not benefit the ruling class to have intelligent, educated people who are aware of their rights and able to vote in a way that can promote real change. That is why I think that to get out of the situation that we're in now, you have to breed a new generation of informed voters. And that's a pretty tall order. That's not something that's going to be easy. It's a very difficult problem to overcome. But like getting back to squirrels. Yeah, like in summary, it's very easy to be swept up in these kind of social movements. And as a result, you start blaming people for things they probably didn't actually do. And that's why I always advocate for waiting to pass judgment on these things for a minimum of several days, because if you're caught up right in the moment, you're going to get swept along by a movement you don't fully understand. And then when the truth of that situation actually comes to pass, then you're probably going to realize that you had a lot of false assumptions. And that's going to create cognitive dissonance, and that's going to be painful. But if you withhold your judgment and you hold things back for a while and let a story develop, and I found this just as effective and useful in VTubing as I have in politics or any other source. If you wait for people to speak and you listen more and say less, you're always going to come out better than if you started talking, you formed opinions right away, and you attacked things. Zen Gunman, I'm here for the Iron Project deets. There are a few of them that I quite liked. Speaking of Iron Project, I am planning to do a stream on them in the next week or two. It might be next week or the week after. I don't want to stream. I will probably just do a gaming stream on Wednesday because I don't give the smallest damn about the US election, and there is no way that I could do any kind of charged stream whatsoever without people talking about the US election. So on Wednesday, I'm going to either do gaming or I might do a bit of TVA and review. We'll see what happens. Guildmage Troy, the US adopting the Prussian education model in the 1920s has been an unmitigated disaster for the average citizen. I do agree. Prussian education model hate. Just a moment. Yeah, Iron Project. I do have some sources in Iron Project, and what they've told me is very interesting. There are some things that I've been unable to say because it'll get people in trouble, but it is a complete and total shit show in that company. There is an awful lot of misery and anger about that. And I don't blame people. Like, Iron Project was horribly managed. Big Whale, oh yeah, that was a double doozy. Elia leaving Videre and Iron yelling, "You don't understand," on top of the Titanic. Magdalena's Rex, wasn't that Fruit Schizo on your forum recently? I heard about it, but need context. Remember your Fruit video, and he was weird. That would be a fun thing to go over, actually. His appearance on my forum, that was rather entertaining. Give me just 1 second, by the way. I want to just check something that's quite important. No, why did I just go to Twitter? That's not where I want to go. Oh, nice. That's very nice. Let me just mute my desktop audio for 1 second. How long has she been live for? we go here, let me just set something up quickly because I'm going to end stream in about it's coming up for nearly 3 hours, so we've only got another 20 or 30 minutes before I have to go. So let me just set up a raid in advance because how long has she been live for? She's been live for 2 hours. I think I'm gonna raid Cecilia when this stream ends. So let me just set that up right now before I forget. I'm not used to doing this, by the way, so it will take me a few more seconds. It's not going to be particularly organic. Redirect ad. Oh, she doesn't actually allow redirects on her videos. That's really annoying. I would do it to Twitch as well, but I can't do that easily. Can you actually, like, how do redirects even work? Like, let me just actually check this. Give me just 1 second. YouTube to raid Twitch. Cross-platform raids. I don't know about that. That's kind of annoying. Makato Lich was entertaining for sure. If you mean pronunciation is like the letter AN, it's like Ayan Project. Is that what we're going with again? I think I remember I had like a massive argument with people about how it's supposed to be pronounced, and it was really dumb and irritating. God damn. Sorry, someone just posted in a Discord that I am about to... It's really nasty. I'm sorry, I've been massively distracted. Let me see. Yeah, there's a couple more things I wanted to go over before we end stream. That Will Tanner kind of capitalizes on this pretty well with his comments here. Why has Peanut the Squirrel thing exploded on here? Because it's the perfect anarcho-tyranny tale. The system that refuses to lock up murderers will send a SWAT team to kill your pet for lack of a permit. So the anarcho-tyranny situation is about to explode. This did too. The anarcho-tyranny is probably the best example of how America is becoming South Africa. Their employees must follow BEE, affirmative action legislation to the letter, or face government wrath. All while 95% of farm murders go unsolved and entire cities decay. Here, murderers are rarely even given a slap on the wrist if the races are right, black murderer, white victim. But the smallest details of tyrannical licensure, permits, and similar sorts of bureaucracy, wholly foreign to America until FDR created it and Obama dramatically expanded it. So on one side, you get attempted murder suspects and attempted murderers let off the hook because of mental issues, but the state will seize your children to trans them under the child protection framework and ignore anything approaching justice or law while doing so. Pronounce it the way that makes the Southern English the most annoyed. So FaZe is the last man standing from that gen of smaller VTuber corpos, almost. Zen Gunman, Proc is all like, I just wanted to talk about the funny anime women. Instead, I'm in a parking garage talking to kawaii Deep Throat. Look, guys, this is one of the main reasons why I find it difficult to talk about VTuber topics, because I am in a privileged position. I could say things about events that other outside observers can't. Like, if I know something, this is the problem. If I know something about a topic, and the person that has told me about it has told me, look, this is private information, you can't reproduce this. How am I then supposed to make a commentary stream on this topic? I can't just lie and say I know nothing. And I can't just be like, well, from an outside perspective, from an observer's perspective, because sometimes the things that I'm told are very different from the outsider's perspective, because, people lie. Just give us a list of, trust me, avoid them without further elaboration. That list would be extremely long. That list would be extremely long. Do you have any idea how much cattiness, backstabbing, and bitchery goes on in VTubing? If you want to find a morally pure VTuber, look for the dead ones. Because there ain't many. There is literally 3 or 4 VTubers that I know that I have heard absolutely nothing bad about, that I couldn't... I'll put it this way, no, there's no VTuber that I have heard nothing bad about. There are maybe 4 or 5 VTubers to whom the bad things that I've heard about, I know for a fact are lies, slander, or misinformation. Women being psychotics? No way! Sarcasm. Big whale, precisely, but they're also amazing at lying, and lying seems to be used as herd immunity. Look, when you've got a bunch of actors, of amateur actors, they're all going to be lying about each other all the damn time. Sometimes it's purely for self-protection, because in VTubing, there is a massive incentive to lie even when other people are directly screwing you over. And it's because if you speak up, you get branded the troublemaker. You get branded the troublemaker because, oh, you're drawing attention to things that make the industry look bad. So, yeah, you get screwed over because you were honest. Everybody hates whistleblowers. The government will fire a whistleblower. And Justin T, hey now, I'll defend my 2-view low chi here. She's clean. All I can say is I sincerely hope so. Again, I don't want to be negative about VTubers. I really don't. Unfortunately, I've dug pretty deep in this industry now, and I can quite safely say that it's a pretty miserable, wretched industry in an awful lot of ways. That's why I say, hold your Oshis close, and support people, support people like Kirsha, support people like Mozumi Peachy, support people like Pipkin Pippa, because they could very easily... They have every incentive to pause out. They have every incentive possible to acknowledge the feminine penis, shall we say, and give up on all of their positions and all of their stances and all of their attitudes, because they would have an easier time of it. They would have an easier time of it. Like, why do you think that Fruit is allowed to spurg out about her husband and everything? Why is she allowed to say all of that stuff on Twitter and she gets no pushback against it? And yet, why is it that Kason calls her out in a very mild way and is told by the company itself, hey, take that tweet down now, but Fruit's tweet stays up? Why is it that Zen Treya is allowed to have a massive meltdown about BLM and say, oh, if you're not supporting BLM, you're literally a murderer, or whatever the hell he said, and he's not fired from VShoho? But people like Kirsha can compile documents of people harassing her for years on end, or being discriminated against by conventions like Ofkai, and the result is complete industry ostracism. That happens because the industry is horribly, horribly, horribly paused. And it is objectively to the benefit of VTubers to have very, very left-leaning positions. And you should be out there supporting VTubers who are either politically neutral or are standing up in a way that pushes back against that nonsense. I wish all VTubers were politically neutral. I don't want VTubers to talk about politics. But I would also be a massive hypocrite if I didn't say that, hey, look, a vast number of VTubers are very strongly left-leaning, and they let that boil over into their streams an awful lot. And so I'm not going to complain when VTubers stand up against that, because I'd just be ignoring the stuff that is obviously already happening. Theater kids who never gave up. Yeah, I know. Justin T, I'm concerned about the shit Kirsha has caught this year, though. I'm unconvinced the drama is never done. Drama is never done with her, and it's never done with anybody else. Ah. Zen, no, I don't think so. I don't know all the details, but I saw about Offkai really nuked my respect for him. But I hope that I'm wrong. I mean, Fishman is a businessman. Also, why I enjoy Essie. I don't know who Essie is, I'm afraid. I've never heard of that particular VTuber before. I'm sorry. Zen Gunman, I've only ever heard Dizzy make one political statement. She hates Justin Trudeau, based. Esilia from Nexus. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm very bad with acronyms. You said Essie, not Esilia, so I didn't know who you were talking about. Dizzy would obviously be a lot more political if she was allowed to. I mean, did you see her South Park thing? Like, that woman really wanted to say the N-word, is all I'll say. And it's a woman that is begging to have the N-word pass given to her. Most of Hollow ID and JP Girls, I assume, are politically apathetic. Also, Jelly is usually based, but has Elon derangement syndrome. I mean, Elon Musk, I think, is... I wouldn't consider Elon to be a massive ally, put it that way, but I mean, I'd certainly choose... That's the funny thing. I used to hate Elon Musk, but now I'm like, you know what? I'll take Elon Musk over the nonsense we have to deal with otherwise. So that's about my opinion on that whole topic. Anyway, gentlemen, I've been live for 2 hours and 43 minutes. I am starving because I've actually had no food whatsoever today aside from this morning. So I am going to have a pizza. And, like, in conclusion of everything, I think that people should be allowed to keep wild animals. I also think that people should not be allowed to keep large amounts of wild animals because, yeah. Don't ever tell the government you have a wild animal. Keep it to yourself. Shut up. Bye. Yeah, thank you very much, Zerstora. Also, thank you, Zen Gunman. And hopefully on Wednesday, I will be able to stream again. I do not intend to comment very much on the US political election or any nonsense like that. I would just like to relax for a while. I have had more than enough drama for a while. I have had more than enough nonsense for a while. And I really hope that everybody has that good things happen to people. That's my summary on the whole thing. I do thank you all for coming. This was a bit of an impromptu stream, but I've been very busy recently. And it's been very difficult for me to keep up on more demanding things. Isn't even your politics, Brit? Well, you know what they say, when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Anyway, gents, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to go and relax now for a while. Although, let me just see for a quick moment. Nah. Okay, gentlemen, I will see you all on Wednesday. Good grief, the chat is really bugging out again. My apologies. Big Whale, cheers, Proc. Thank you for helping me figure out that killing cared for animals is wrong. It took me a while to get here. Zuli, don't worry, Proc. You can comment on the election a week after when we actually get all the numbers on, or the numbers that Dems try pushing off. Thank you for the stream. You no problem, Muffy Graves, and I'm very sad that I had to learn even more about insanity to do with Canada. So anyway, yes, thank you all for coming, and I will see you all on Wednesday, hopefully. Good night for now. Please take care.